257 idioms, we don't recognize them. Same with education. The more we have the Bible in education, the more we're bright. You know, America in the last 40 years has fallen from #1 in the world in literacy to number 65 in the world in literacy. We regularly get our socks beat off by folks that we think are poor little third world nations. Same on math and science testing. Bible increases your capacity for productivity, hard work, everything else. So we know that, and that's why there's such a connection between the 4th of July and Bible. Now, we don't understand this as much anymore, but we used to. You take someone like Andrew Jackson. President Jackson understood it. He said the Bible is the rock on which our republic rests. I mean, what we celebrate 2 weeks on the 4th of July, we're actually celebrating what was done on the basis of biblical teachings and biblical principles. That's why, going back to Teddy Roosevelt, Teddy said this. He says, the teachings of the Bible are so interwoven and entwined with our civic and social life that it'd be impossible for us to figure what life would be if these teachings were removed. That's literally true. If we pulled those 257 idioms out of language today and made them off limits so nobody would use them, we would be shocked at how much we couldn't say that came out of the Bible. Same way, if we took the biblical influence out of our culture and institutions, we wouldn't even recognize this country. If we took away the institutions that are here as a result of the Bible, we wouldn't even know this country anymore. So just because we have the institutions in today, we think there's something secular about them. That's not the way it was in its origins. Just to give you a good example, we've been told so long now, the last 40, 50 years, that government's a secular thing, and Christians shouldn't get involved in secular things, and it's a really good thing for us that those who wrote our founding document didn't believe that. We have 56 founding fathers here, and I was recently at Duke University Law School, and I put that picture up for the kids and said, who do you recognize up there? And every student instantly found for me Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Well, it's interesting, but there's 56 guys up there. Let's include the others. They didn't have a clue. I mean, if you go across that front row there, starting on the left side, you got George Clinton, you got Richard Henry Lee, Sam Adams. Keep moving across is Charles Carroll, the guy in the light brown jacket. Robert Morris beside him is Robert Treat Paine. The guy in the hat in the back window there, that's Stephen Hopkins. Beside him is William Wentz. Go through the other 54 names we don't know. Isn't it interesting? We've all been trained to recognize the 2 least religious founding fathers. We can find those guys, and we're told, well, everybody else was just like Jefferson and Franklin. Were they really? Out of the 56 guys who signed the Declaration, 29 of these guys had seminary and Bible school degrees. That's fairly significant. We had religious folks involved. That's why we have a document that's so significant. And these guys, in their own writings, said the work on which they relied to do that document, the Declaration, was this: the 2 treatises of government by John Locke. Matter of fact, Richard Henry Lee over there on the left, he's the guy who made the motion in Congress that we separate and be an independent nation. That's why they wrote the Declaration, because of his motion. He said that they, quote, copied the Declaration out of that book. Now, it would have been 50 years ago, in any American government class, you would have read the 2 treatises of government, because everybody knew that government came out of Locke's 2 treatises of government. We don't read it anymore today now in civic government class. I wonder why. Because that little book, less than 400 pages long, less than an inch thick, quotes the Bible over 1,500 times to show the proper operation of civil government. Imagine that, 1,500 Bible verses on how government started. See, that's why our government's been so different from so many others, because we had that kind of a foundation. But the less we know of where that foundation came from, the less we protect that foundation. And if we get convinced that government's secular, and that's why it works so great, we'll completely lose that foundation. The principles they have, they're the 104 words that start the Declaration, have the 6 fundamental principles of American government. Every American should know that because they come out of the Bible. The 6 things about government that the Declaration is built on, the Constitution embodies, they all come out of the Bible. So I'm going to show you some of that tonight, but in having done this, let me just take you to how blessed we've been as a result of this little document, because we are in 2 weeks celebrating the 4th of July, and we celebrate our national birthday, and it's really cool. This year, there's 192 nations in the world. It changes every year. It depends on who's had a revolution, who's had a war, who's taken over somebody else. But there's 190. Look for any other nation that doesn't have a revolution every generation. Now, here we are. We've had one piece of paper for 235 years. Now, you can take France, who's had 15 different constitutions in that period of time. You can take Poland, who's had 7 constitutions since 1921. You can take Russia, who's had 4 constitutions since 1917. You can take Afghanistan, who's had 5 constitutions since 1923. Imagine living in any other country where you have constitutions that often, and we still got the first piece of paper 235 years later. That's the